All right, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Ask a Scholar. I'm your host, Hamid, the layman, as I like to introduce myself, representing you all who have questions for scholars who are trying to learn and bridge some of the gaps that you may have in your everyday life. I'm pleased to be with Sheikh Muhammad, who is a regular supporter of Masjid al-Haq. Thank you for joining us, Sheikh Muhammad.
Jazakallah for having me.
Yeah, so as you know, we started to discuss some of the things that we wanted to embark on for this conversation that you and I are going to have today. And there's so many things that are relevant, right, to people now more than
100%.
ever, right, that really affect some of their everyday lives. We can always talk about some of the very esoteric information, some of the deep scholarly information, but there are questions that people have all the time that just relate to their everyday lives, right? Just being a regular everyday Muslim, right? And some of those things, I feel like you being someone that is, very active in the community, you do a lot with the youth, I think you would be a great person to help answer some of these questions.
We can hope, inshallah.
Inshallah, right? Right. Some of these, I'm not gonna throw you any curveballs. I'm gonna try not to.
All right.
Right.
I hope so.
Because I do have some questions people were asking about dinosaurs.
Okay.
But we're
I'll
stay away from those, right? So
If I don't want to answer something, I'll just say I pass.
you just say pass.
Yeah, just say pass.
Okay. Is that what you're gonna do when someone walks up to you after a football?
No, then I just refer them to another better scholar.
MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. So, a lot of people who are going to tune into this podcast, who do tune in this podcast, are who we call young people, quote unquote, right? People who may be going to college, right? Maybe just now graduating, looking for a job. Sometimes it's people who are beginning their lives, looking to get married or looking for a spouse and things like that, right? And every time they come to these crossroads, they find themselves really wondering what to do next, right? So a common question that I think all of us are challenged with is, how to really approach these pivotal points in our life, right? And a lot of times, we as Muslims are referred to Istikhara. So I was just hoping that maybe you could touch on the benefits of Istikhara, how to really apply it in your life, and, what are some of the things that we can do to make it so that we understand what we get from Istikhara after we perform it?
It's a really good question. Sometimes people have this idea for Istikhara like it's a magic 8-ball. Like Istikhara, shake the ball and it'll tell me what to do next, and I'll probably see this special vision dream, and I just got to follow that to the T. There's this really overt obsession with dreams at times with certain people where it's just like they feel like anything that's in the dream is 100%. I have to follow it. It's almost like divine revelation was given to me through my istikhara. Yeah. So what is istikhara? Istikhara is essentially you're asking Allah for goodness, right, in whatever decision that you make. And that if there's something bad, these are from the words of the dua itself, right? Like you're asking Allah to, one, make it easy for you and open up the doors that are good for you. And if you make a decision to put khair and barakah and goodness in that. But on the flip side, that if it's bad for you, that Allah distances you from that. So then a common question sometimes people have, like, for example, if someone made istikhara for a marriage. Like I remember I was dealing with one case where someone did make istikhara for a marriage. And, sometimes things happen and things don't work out. But he was pretty adamant that, a bunch of people made istikhara. How is it that this messed up, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, because and there it was again, someone had a dream. Very fantastic dream, a very amazing dream, right? So it's like if a young guy is interested in getting married to a girl and he's just been thinking about her all the time, he's just thinking. Then he goes to sleep and then he sees himself on a horse running through a field and she's there in a princess gown. He's going to say, my istikhara is telling me to get married. No, that's your inner thoughts,
right?
That you want to get married to this girl, right? So there is, of course, an element that dreams can have truth to them and they can be a message from Allah and a reminder from Allah. And sometimes Allah is trying to tell you something. However, we don't need to take dreams as the end-all be-all, right? So I would say we should view istikhara as after you make, you consult with people, elders, scholars, people that you trust, you make istikhara, you're asking Allah now to guide you to make the right decision. So going back to that story, when he asked me and he's like, how is it then that didn't work? And I said, the problem is you viewed it differently, right? That even though this didn't work out, there was probably actually khair, there was probably actually goodness for you in this decision that you made, right? Probably you got out of this learning something that you otherwise wouldn't have, right? I've actually seen that in people, like sometimes when people, even though they may go through a bad marriage or they might go through something bad, in the moment, it's horrible.
Right.
But they come out a little bit better for it. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have learned some valuable lessons by going through those tests.
Yeah.
And it echoes actually. I was just teaching the high schoolers recently the story of Maryam alayhi salam, right? And I was thinking about it and I was talking to the teenagers, and I was like, look, if you look at it in that moment, she knows that she didn't do anything wrong. Like she literally says that to Allah, that walam aku baghiya, right? Ya Allah, I wasn't someone who fornicated. I wasn't someone who was unchaste in any way. And Allah responds that, that's it. Oh, it's easy for me. I'm God, right?
Yep.
But what's really interesting is the ayah says, وَلِنَجْعَلَهُ آيَةً لِلنَّاسِ. We're going to make him, meaning Isa alayhi salam, Prophet Jesus alayhi salam, a sign for people and a mercy from us. Okay? Now here's the interesting part. This is what I was trying to highlight for my students. Is that Maryam alayhi salam could not foresee the future in that moment. All she saw was a test, right? And for a woman who strives to be pure, or for anyone who strives to be pure, man or woman, but for women really, and then now to have the whole community is going to now, and you know what they're going to say, right? Because they all knew you. She was known. She was a pious woman. She was worshiping the whole time. Now this entire community is going to sit there and say, well, what's going on? And they literally said, Ya ukhta Harun, or sister of Harun, ma kana abuki imra'a saw, wa ma kanat ummuki baghiya. Your father wasn't a bad person, and your mom wasn't an unchaste person. What is this? Right? But I'm saying, look at how her baby turned out to be the Prophet of Allah. And he turned out to be loved by billions of people after that. Till 2023. Like Maryam alayhi salam, no way could have envisioned what that would look like now. Like Christians have immense love for Jesus. Muslims have immense love for Isa alayhi salam. He's mentioned all over the world. But in that moment over there, she probably couldn't have seen that. So the reason I'm mentioning that is because it ties back into maybe you make an istikhara and maybe things don't exactly go how you want it to. But there was probably khair, there was probably goodness in you going through something in that moment, right? Because kind of the default we got to think about life is, life's a test. That's the default, right? Yes. Everything's a test, whatever I'm going through. Yeah. And that's why the stories of the prophets are so powerful, because they literally talk about test after test after test after test after test to give us, strength in those times.
Yep. And I think that's a great story and an example of, if you were to foresee everything that would come after this decision you make, you might not make the decision. You might push yourself into the wrong decision. So you have to trust in Allah at the end of the day. So, for those who are listening who may be, new Muslims, right, or have never made istikhara, can you maybe shed some light on a practical approach, or what is some of the fundamentals approach of just making istikhara?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. I think you make your 2 rak'ahs, and then you read the dua of istikhara. Maybe we can post it on the link underneath. You just read the dua of istikhara. And then, you do it. If you feel a certain way, if you feel, an inclination, then you just go forward with it. If you don't feel anything, you're kind of still unsure, you can keep making it up to 7 days. And then inshallah, you go ahead and make your decision. Trust that Allah, has guided you towards what is good for you in that moment.
Okay. One last question on istikhara, right? Again, so, the reason why we do this podcast, right? The reason why we have these discussions is for Muslims who are at different stages in their life. A lot of new Muslims out there who are trying to figure out how to, go through this journey that they're on. And some of the questions that come up for a lot of us is that, I can't read the Arabic. I might struggle over the transliteration. I might even mess it up. Is it okay to make istikhara in English?
So I think, reading the du'as, because I think there's a lot of resources now, right? With the transliteration in English. Yeah. If you mess up, it's okay.
Okay.
Like, I think we need to come out of this as like, you need to either be all in or you're all out.
Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, it's like some new reverts or people who are interested in Islam, they sometimes have that conception that you need to be in or you be all out. Like, oh, I can't read the things of prayer and I'm learning them, so I don't pray. No, they're like, no, we don't have a concept. You still do what you got to do. You do, fattakullah mastata'tum. You fear Allah as much as you can, right? Like, you do what you got to do. So for someone who maybe can't read the Arabic, just pick up an English transliteration, just read it, and just move on with life.
Do your best.
Do your best. That's it. Like, I don't think it's like, oh, is Allah going to not listen to my istikhara dua because I didn't put the right ta or ta? For someone new to the faith, of course, Allah's doors are open for everyone.
I mean, that's good. Alhamdulillah.